Reality Check with Craig Price.
Oh, right. Sorry.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So welcome to Reality Check with Craig Price. I am your host, Craig Price. This is our second episode. If this is your second episode, thanks for coming back. If it's your first episode, welcome. We certainly appreciate all our listeners who take the time to download and listen to us. We've got a great show for you today. We got Neen James on. She's going to talk about productivity. Now, I've always had problems with productivity. I've always had two mindsets. I kind of live in a split personality kind of situation when it comes to being productive. I've got two ways of doing it. I've got one which I call jingling the keys. And then I am like an infant that if you jingle the keys, I will get distracted and I will do whatever is in front of me at that moment. And then as soon as someone else jingles the keys, whether I'm finished or not, I will move on to the next thing. So I really do a lot of little things without ever completing a task. That's one thing I do. The other way is I find something I'm really jazzed about, I'm excited to do, or I just got the feeling that it's time to do this, let's get it done. And I turn on the laser beam. This is my laser beam mode where I can put intense focus for an extended period of time until the goal is finished. So if I'm working on a project, I am eating, I am sleeping, I am dreaming, I am waking up in the middle of the night and writing notes down, I am going back to bed, I am waking up an hour before my alarm clock goes off because I'm excited and I want to work on this project. And so it will take up all my time when I will exclude everything that's going on around me because I've got the laser beam going. Now, I can talk on for 5, 10, 15 minutes about how productive or unproductive I may or may not be, but really, how productive would that be? And the whole show is about, it's about productivity. So why don't we just get right to it? Today's guest, Neen James. You know, I'm glad you're here because I'm not a productive person.
Everyone's productive. It's just your version of productivity.
Not everybody's productive. Let's be honest. Not every single person is productive.
But in your own style. Everyone has a style.
Well, sure. And I've got a lot of people that...
Some people are lazy.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. I'm kind of inherently lazy. I don't...
someone in my audience like that today. And it's like, that's okay. If that's what you want to be. But don't complain if you don't get anything done.
But I also try not to confuse laziness with efficiency. Because my deal is I like to get things done as quickly as possible and as well as I can.
Right.
So that I can do other things that I want to do. Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about. Just getting on with it so you can get something done.
But when I was in school, I'd get the tests done first. And I'd run up and boom, and now I'm 20 minutes in, I'm done. The test takes 2 hours.
Right. So then you think, what am I going to do?
Well, no, I was like, oh, good, I can relax.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, I'm not out of here, but it was third grade. They didn't let me leave. But it's like, oh, thank God. And the teacher would get upset. No, Craig, go back and check your answers. Well, so it was one of those things where I have a tendency of getting, and I just so you know, I am here with Neen James, the lovely Neen James.
Thank
you. The
you.
queen of productivity. And like I said, I've got some weird things about me is I'm like very manic. I like to get things done as quickly as possible, but I also concentrate for like several days on a project.
So there's an intensity to it. So you work really intensely and then you need recovery time. So
yeah,
you work crazy focused on something, and then do you find you block out everything else?
Yeah, and I find that's kind of detrimental because,
life still goes on.
Sure.
Perfect.
So, well, like I said, I'm just extremely manic, but I find that I do block everything out, and that can cause a problem because now I'm not getting, instead of like allocating a little bit of time, I'm ignoring all this other stuff that I also should be doing around the same time. Because your day, if you need to make calls every day, if you just not make a phone call for 3 days, that's...
Well, I think it's your definition of should. I mean, should is someone else's word. It's a word that I don't encourage my audience, my friends to use, because should is someone else's expectation. So at some point, someone might have told you should be calling people every day, but that's someone else's expectation. So you need to release the whole should thing. I think time in our language, if you go really hard at something and you're insanely focused, the only thing that I would say is you probably want to manage the expectations of the people in your life. So if you're going to go really hard at something, like when you're writing your book, and you're just going to go hard at writing your book, you need to tell the world, you know what, I'm checking out. This is the way that I'm going to get this done, and manage other people's expectations.
I understand that, and it's true, because I like to lower expectations as often as possible. A, you can exceed them much easier.
You look like a hero.
Always. I call it the Scotty principle. Scotty from Star Trek always was, I can't believe it. It's going to take 3 days. And then 40 minutes later, it's done. And he looks like a hero. And, but I lower expectations not only because it lowers, it makes it look like a hero when you're done, but I think it reduces the stress. But I also have, the reality is that when I'm working as a self-employed person, I have obligations. I have a wife, and I've got bills to pay.
Sure.
And so, yes, the book is important, and it will be long-term a benefit, but am I sacrificing the things that I need to do to make sure that, 2 months from now I have a gig? So
I think lots of entrepreneurs are in that. I was speaking with the Entrepreneurs Association this morning, and we were saying that you don't stop working. As an entrepreneur, you are driving your own business, you are trying to manage your relationships, you're trying to find the next client maybe. So the reality of it is that, they talk about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. And Pareto basically decided in his research that there was this thing called predictable imbalance. So 20% of the world controlled 80% of the wealth. It's a great theory. But I think then there's the whole life thing that gets in the way, and relationships and people. And, it's fascinating to me. I think you need to just find what works for you. I don't think there's a prescription.
Oh, good. I like when people say that, because I find that we've labeled people so much, and we put so many labels on, it's either this way or that way.
Says who?
I know. That's what I always believe. There's always a combination. There's whatever fits your style.
Right. And so when I talk about people's productivity style, it's absolutely a label. But I think what it does is it gives people permission to be who they are. So, there used to be time management training. Well, that's hideous. Okay, time management's out the window. It doesn't work anymore. In the 80s, maybe it worked, maybe in the 90s. But
it was 9 to 5, and it's not 9 to 5 anymore.
Exactly. We had a paper inbox. Remember that? There was a paper outbox. Mail went in, mail went out.
What's an outbox?
Exactly. That's what I mean. And then people left the office and they went home. And so that time management training, that worked way back when. It doesn't work anymore. Those theories, those principles, you can't make a to-do list and prioritize it. That's stupid. You spend more time prioritizing your to-do list than doing your to-do list. Time management's out the window. It's super productivity that's actually what it's really about.
Yeah, because I told people that you were going to be on, and I'm using my social media, so Gina Schreck will be very excited. And
we love her.
Yeah, one of the questions was, especially on the productivity side, was, how do you prefer people do the worst thing first? Because my theory is if you do the worst thing first, that's usually that takes the longest. It's the one you don't want to do. But if you get it done, your life starts to get easier. It's like the snowball effect.
Yeah.
Well, other people think if you do small things and lead up to the big things, you will gain confidence as you move forward. I'm not a big gain confidence as you move forward person. I'm more of a let's make my life easier as I go along. So what's your theory on that?
Like I said before, it's got to be right for you. So, for example,
what works for you?
For me, I like to get the big ticket items out of the way first. So for me, let me explain, I'm a morning bird. I love to do stuff in the morning. I'm most productive in the morning. But if a client says to me, can you speak for dinner? I say absolutely not. Like that, I can recommend some great people for you, but I am not at my best time. So my strategy, my big stuff, sometimes it's not stuff I love, but I get that out of the way when my brain's most engaged. So morning birds, just so you know, are most productive between the hours of 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. Night owls, though, I married a night owl, right? He's most productive between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. Don't even try and talk to him before his morning coffee. There is no intelligent conversation that's going to occur. So he can spend his day kind of warming up, getting some of those things done. Strategy for him is the afternoon. So when you know your productivity style, that's one part of what we talk about. If you're a morning bird, get it out of the way early. Now, the one thing I would say, though, is stuff like exercise. Exercise is not negotiable. I don't care who you are. I don't care what size you are. I don't care where you're from in this world. Your body is designed to move. So you've got to do it. If you can get that out of the way in the morning, then it's done. So where I think the rules might be slightly different is you have to eat and you have to exercise. And so exercise is one thing I would encourage you, regardless of whether you're a morning bird or a night owl, to get that out of the way early.
Okay, because my wife, what she does is she is not a morning person at all. In fact, you can't talk to her or she will, take a swing at you. I love her to death.
Sure.
But I don't.
That's not her best time.
It's not her best time. That's being nice. That is probably the worst time you could ever communicate with her is from 6:30 to 7:30 when she's getting either up or out the door, but she's
Sure.
but she also exercises when she gets home from work because it's the only, she values.
It's the only way she values her morning sleep in.
Yeah,
Sure.
but you're saying that maybe you make a little bit of a sacrifice to.
For exercise, I think it's the one thing, and I'll tell you why. If you leave exercise too late in the day, so say you do it just before you go to sleep, you have all these phenomenal, great endorphins and things running around your body, which would make you more productive if you could leverage them, but then you're trying to go to sleep and you're battling with all the crazy chemistry in your body. So it is the one thing. Now, what might work for your wife is if she does it when she gets home, she's burning off some of the cortisol and the craziness of the day.
And the lunch.
And the lunch, so maybe it works. But what I believe with productivity is no one can give you a prescription, and if they think they can, they're wrong.
Well, sure.
So
Yeah, but
back to your question though, do you do the little things first or the big things first, the things you like or the things you don't? It's up to you, but here's what I know to be true. If you just do all those little things, nothing strategic gets done. So people do the little things so they can cross them off their list and have some sense of satisfaction. That's crazy stuff because you're giving away bits of time and it's not working towards something more strategic. So I have a little sign on my desk and it says, is this the best use of my time right now? I think time's something you got to bargain with on a regular basis.
now, the listeners can tell right away you're not a natural American.
This is a very true story.
This is very true. In fact, I made the dumb American mistake of earlier this week. I was at an event, and a lady with an English accent walked up, and she's like, "Oh, I'm very excited to hear you, and this is blah blah blah." And you know, being a dumb American, I only think, and I'm thinking, I'm going to see Neen later on. Mm-hmm. I go, "Are you Australian?" No, I'm from Buckinghamshire. I'm like, oh, God, because, you know, we always screw that up. And where in Australia are you from?
From Sydney, Australia. But what's funny is that lady might appreciate is if people haven't travelled outside the US, I often get asked if I'm English. So I guess we all started as convicts. So Australians were really just shipped across as convicts. So that's kind of how we started, I guess. So at some point we are probably related, I think, and proudly so to convicts from England.
And Americans are rejects from England. Our religion was so screwed up they kicked us out. People forget that. They always forget it when they
so many similarities.
When they talk about the extremists in Islam and all that goofy stuff. Americans like to have a nice short-term memory. They forget that we were the extremists. We were kicked out because we were too strict.
Yeah, well, I can't comment on the American way, but I think it's funny, and I think the thing that I do love though is that I think everything my experience has been, so Americans are some of the most hospitable people on earth and definitely some of the most caring. However, they are some of the most hardworking. In Australia, we work hard and we play hard and we treat that important. Here, we just work hard.
Well, I think two reasons. Number one, like you said, you're a convict island. So now that nobody is, they still have that mentality of, you know, I need my freedom. The freedom's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's just live life because like tomorrow's not going to happen.
Well, I think what they do there is their lifestyle is such that work really just funds a lifestyle. Whereas here, where Americans are always looking for the next target, achievement, accomplishment. So we're always looking for the next. We're very future oriented. Whereas in Australia, people are very present oriented. They just want to make the most of the now, the weather, the beaches, whatever is at their fingertips. And when you think about it, they don't have the same challenges as we have here in relation to the weather, the delays, the security at the airport, little things that do change how productive we can become here. And so those things all affect our personal productivity.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like I said, it's the where you came from, so it's the convict. But I also know that it's like the most poisonous.
Every American says that. That is so
true.
funny to me.
You know why we watch Animal Planet?
I know.
And they say that not like 5 of the top 10 with the top 3 snakes, the spiders.
Yeah, but here's the deal.
The duck-billed platypus is poisonous.
I know, but what's funny is, okay, I get that, and every American says that to me, but here's the deal.
They say the duck-billed platypus is poisonous to you?
No, they don't say that. They're not
showing
that smart.
off.
Okay, but they do say that about our spiders and our snakes. It's not like every one of us goes, oh, yay, there's a spider, let me pick it up and play with it. No one does that. And as a kid, you get taught.
That's
you don't
Steve Irwin's fault. We all thought you'd love to manhandle everything.
Sorry to delude you all, but the reality is you just learn as a kid. I mean, I had all those spiders and snakes as I grew up, and I didn't play with them. I didn't get killed by any of them. Obviously, I'm here. So the reality is, I think that's just a big fat marketing thing. You know, maybe it's just to keep people away. I don't know, but I think you shouldn't be worried about that stuff.
Then
you have rattlesnakes, for heaven's sake. We don't have rattlesnakes.
Yeah, but they don't have rattlesnakes everywhere.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I grew up in New Hampshire, there's nothing really. I mean, a moose.
Yeah, they're kind of cool. We don't have those.
Yeah, and the occasional black bear. That's it.
I'd love to see bears. I think that's really cool. We don't have them either.
Yeah,
see?
but you've got koalas.
Yeah, we do. And they're not koala bears, by the way. They're koalas.
Right.
That's it. You look American when people say koala bear.
Australia is on my bucket list. I've always, even when I was a little kid, I've always wanted to go. I used to do reports on them, so I know all about them.
Love it.
Well, I would love it, but I also know that you just don't touch anything and check your shoes in the morning.
Sure, that's exactly right. And I still am in that practice even living here, which is bizarre you say that. But here's the thing. It's like, I always say it's 6 movies from LA plus dinner. So don't let the flight get in the way of not going to Australia.
No. Nowadays with the, like I said, I got my new tablet. You've got movies. They got direct TV on the flights. That's not a problem. You can, and it's pretty nice. The only problem is the going through customs. But even then, that's nothing anymore.
It's nothing.
But you were a speaker in Australia first, because I remember you were coming to events here in America, our big conferences.
Right.
And so you were flying in. What got you started being? Or you're just the most productive person in your office, and you said, I'm going to go start speaking on this?
I didn't even know speaking was a real business. I don't know if I think that when I was in corporate, I was the general manager. In Australia, that's kind of like the second in charge. It's not the CEO, but you run, like I ran hundreds of people in my call center and my sales team in a telecommunications company, and we supplied into the major telcos. So I got to that job. I always thought I wanted to be that, but all I realized was I'm managing a P&L and putting out a whole lot of fires. Well, that's not glamorous. It's definitely not fun. And I was always the speaker at every national conference for best practice or benchmarking or the latest initiative or the projects. Always the speaker, right?
Well, how are you getting those? How are you being chosen as always the speaker?
Because I think
they don't just like randomly pick people and say it's your turn.
I had very high profile projects in my corporate career. I was very blessed to have a crazy accelerated career. So I was always on someone's radar. So that was a real blessing. I didn't know that was actually a job. And then someone said to me, you should be a speaker. And I remember saying to him, can you make any money out of that? Well, apparently you can. And a nice income, and so I left, and I was very blessed. I got to retain a client the moment that I left, so I started a training company first, and they knew of my corporate reputation, so I set up, and, the rest they say is history. So in Australia, I was very blessed because I had a corporate reputation. I already had a brand that I could leverage, and that made it easy. And I was always the chick who could get stuff done. I could see something and then systemize it. I could design a new process. I could get people to get stuff done. I was always able to do that. And then my clients started saying, can you teach my team how to do that? Can you help us do that? So that's how the productivity piece got evolved. I didn't even really know that that's what it was. I just assumed everyone was good with productivity, and then I was soon to realize that wasn't the reality.
No, that's not even close to the reality. But did you wait until you did you just jump ship and just say?
Yeah. So I told the board in the January that I was going to be leaving by the December. I told the board that I was going to re-engineer the whole business. I was going to centralize every part of the company operations out of a different state. I was going to retrench, which means I was going to lay off or fire at least 250 people. This was how I was going to do it. I presented my plan to the board. And the board said, I don't think so. And I said, yeah, because I'm leaving. So this is how it's going to happen. And I also was fortunate to be at a time where I realized the market was maturing phenomenally quickly in prepaid and telecommunications. So with a lot of great support, I spearheaded the project. We closed a lot of things down. And some of the kids that work for me, and I call them kids because some of them were young, but they traveled for 2 years on the payout that I gave them. So we had a really, really good time. I actually re-engineered the business, and I also made myself obsolete as part of that and centralized everything in a different place. So I also was able to negotiate a lovely way to set up my new company.
See, that's what I was going to ask, is that a lot of speakers are afraid to make that leap because you have to pretty much say goodbye to a salary, a weekly check, in the hopes.
Sure.
Now, you may have gotten a lot of things as a side business and in some wait until it overcomes, their side business income overcomes their regular income, and then they feel comfortable. But other people like me, I jumped into it just blind.
Well, I moved countries. So when I moved countries, I had no reputation, no clients, no nothing.
But you were speaking before you jumped
I knew how to speak.
And you knew how to market.
Sure.
So you had a little bit more going for you than the
Well, the good thing is, too, you don't make the same mistakes you do. Because when I first started out, if someone told me to buy a book, buy a program, attend a workshop, you believe it, I spent gazillion crazy, stupid dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing I would say to speakers is don't do it. Don't do it. Don't buy every book that's been told of you. Don't attend every workshop. Go to what is strategically valuable for you, because I was one of those stupid new people who just absorbed everything and spent literally thousands of dollars on stuff. So please don't buy into that. No. If I still really wanted it, within 48 hours of me hearing about it, then I would reach out and purchase it or register. But when I first started in Australia, I took the advice of everyone, and then you become so disoriented. Now, I was very fortunate to have a phenomenal mentor by the name of Matt Church, and he's actually going to be part of the unconference for NSA. And he was awesome. He accelerated my learning, probably saved me 5 years in my speaking career because he told me the good, the bad, and the ugly. No one else would do that.
Yeah, no one will tell you the ugly.
Right. He was really honest with me.
I find
helpful.
That in the speaking world, everybody's doing well.
Yeah, which is crazy. That's not true.
And of course it's not true. I mean, everybody's doing well. Everybody is super busy. Everybody's super busy, everybody's doing very well, and everybody's making lots of money. And I don't believe that's true at all. And there's nothing wrong with not making a lot of money and not being super busy.
It depends on what's important to you, though, doesn't it? Like, some people, I have the most supportive husband on the entire planet. So he allows me to make choices about what clients I want to work with, where I want to travel, and also, too, you add to the fact that we don't have kids. So there's a different level of flexibility in my life and the freedoms that my husband's support gives me and that our financial situation gives me. So I think what happens is there's this facade speakers believe they need to have that says, well, everyone else is making money, so I better pretend they're making money, which is rubbish. Okay, it's not true. Or trash, like you say here.
No, rubbish. We got rubbish. Yeah, okay. And I love that you also, in case I don't know, you post little words in Australian or phrases.
Slang,
and about a third of them, I'll be honest with you, about a third of them are old English terms too.
Surely.
I'm looking at it going,
food is old English stuff.
I'm like looking at them going, well, no, we use that in America. That's how cute.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are really good. The stuff that I hear some things and I'm like,
we must have about 50 words for vomit. I'm pretty sure we have at least that many for the idiots. So, yeah, Aussie slang, I mean, it's fun. It's funny to me. But what I also learned, and still even today, I was with an audience this morning, I still say stupid Australian stuff that makes no sense here, and I have to backpedal and go, okay, what did I say that made no sense? Because I'm carrying two languages in my head, the American way of saying things and the Australian way. So, but I think getting back to what you were saying about the speakers, one thing I have loved, I must say, in the speaking community is getting together with a group of people that are really like-minded. And when you find those people who, there's no facade, they give it to you honestly, they don't try and sugarcoat it. When you find a group of people like that, it's so powerful because then you think, you know what, this is truly what it's about. And if you're having a tough time, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to charge, if you don't know how to respond, you can pick up the phone to someone and say, I don't know what to do here. And when you find that set of people, that's when I think you truly have got people that are really in your corner, and you can make it as a speaker when you've got that support.
Yeah, I think a lot of speakers are afraid to admit that their business is not doing well or they don't know something.
Sure.
And it's like, I mean, I'm one of the few one walks around going, I'm an idiot. I mean, I'll tell people straight up, I have no idea.
People might then be more open to thinking, that you're more approachable or that you will take information. I think, though, too, what I have noticed is I think sometimes that we prey on our young. I don't know how to say that nicely, but I think...
No, go ahead. This is not a nice place, so you go ahead and say whatever you feel.
But I'm such a nice person.
I know, but I'll translate it into horrible for you.
No, I think what happens is, I think sometimes I've seen, and it's not unique to our industry, but I think in some industries where maybe you haven't made it in the industry, so you'll just try and teach other people how to do it. That's what I mean, preying on our young.
They do that
and stuff.
I was an actor for a long time, and if you'll find out that actors who don't make it become acting teachers.
Sure.
It's those who can do, those who can't teach, those who can't teach offer training sessions.
Okay. But that's not kind to trainers, because some trainers really do.
No, but I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They get stuck in a spot, and they're like, well, I'll just start marketing to other speakers. Now there are certain people who are legitimate. They're trying to like David Newman. I'm gonna have on my podcast. He is a marketer, but he's also a marketer for speakers.
Sure.
And that's not because he is a speaker who isn't working. This is what he's done. His background is...
And there are people who deserve your money who are exceptional at what they do.
But you've got to find them, because there's way too many. There's way too many people out there selling whatever they can to get by until their business catches on.
And when I look around in the world, there's probably maybe half a dozen people that I would invest my money in. And so when you know who those people are and you believe in the products and the services they offer, and they're not necessarily marketing, some of them maybe they are, But I think one thing that, especially if you're starting in this business, is asking a lot of questions and asking who's best at what. Because you might get advice on someone about presentation or platform skills, but you might get advice on comedy from someone completely different. Oh, mm-hmm. So I don't believe that everyone we have is a one-stop shop. If you truly want to be productive with your own speaking career, if that's what this is about, then you also need to be the student and walk around and say, what don't I know? Where do I need help? Who can give me that help? And honestly, I believe you should pay for the help. I am a great believer in paying for things, and if you can't pay, can you barter? Because I think we assume people will give us a lot of stuff for free, and we get insulted when our clients want us to speak for free, and yet we expect each other to provide services for free all the time. So it's a really hard one to balance, because in the organization, National Speakers Association, there's an enormous amount of gifts of service being given all the time. And I think people get insulted. I've offered to pay so many people for their advice, and they generously have been kind and not necessarily wanted to do that. But I think we need to be prepared to put our money where our mouth is.
Oh, absolutely. But it's also, this goes towards being productive. It's about finding the actual resources versus a resource.
Correct. Exactly. And that requires time. It means investing, asking people. Social media is a brilliant place to do that. I know you and Jean are going to talk about that. But I will often just tweet out a request about something or post something on LinkedIn and say, who can tell me about, that kind of thing. And I think that there are so many tools available to us now that even speakers, 10, 15 years ago didn't have the same opportunity to leverage the brain's trust that's out there. And so productivity is not just about a to-do list or supposedly managing time, because time's going to happen whether you like it or not. You don't get a choice of that. You just get a choice of how you invest it. And as a speaker, on a daily basis, you're being challenged about, just think about if you were an attorney or an accountant and you're on a billable model, would you still spend your time on the things that you are? Because in the billable model, while it's very disciplined, it's very focused, they get value for time. And I think we don't. We see a big price tag for a keynote or a half-day training workshop and think, hey, we're getting all this money for it. But if we had to break down the amount of preparation and calls and all the things we were doing, we'd be probably surprised at how scary low our supposed hourly rate is. And so productivity is about different things to different people. There's not one formula that fits everyone.
Yeah, I think a lot of speakers jump into speaking, especially here in America. They see the money. They see the money.
And the barriers to entry are so low, Craig.
But
you
they also
just hang out a sign and say, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant. It doesn't matter.
But they think they wonder why they're not getting, whatever amount of money for a big, huge keynote. They think, I'm good at speaking. People like me.
Sure.
I will start in a year from now. I will be a six-figure speaker, and it's like, no, you've got to put some time into it.
You do. The late Ron Tacky, I love Ron. He owned a bureau in Australia, and I remember when I first started, and he said, Neen James is going to take you 7 years. I was like, hell no, it's not. Oh, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
I was like, isn't it going to take me 7 years? If we met, I'm productive. I'm this, I'm great. Blah 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 blah. Sure enough. What's funny about that is no matter what, I still hear Ron's voice telling me things today, even though he's since left. I think that Ron was really right, and I think we think we're the exception, and I certainly believed I was the exception to the rule, but it does take you a couple years to build a client set, to get clear on what you want to talk about, to even find out who you like talking to.
Yes.
That's all experimenting, and so I know people say you can do this in 2 years. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, that wasn't my reality. I had to put in the time.
Not a lot of people.
And I'm still putting in the time. I still speak for free. I still support the associations and organizations I believe in, absolutely. And I don't get full fee every time that I speak. And anyone who tells you they do, I think they're a big fat liar. Well, I don't think it works like that.
That's why this whole project is going on, because I want people to know that you can do a lot of things, but it's not guaranteed 2 years overnight. They expect a lot of stuff right up front, and it's like you've got to put in some time.
Sure.
A lot of people think that they just have some kind of momentous epiphany in their heads and they have something to share, and everybody's got something to share.
That I truly believe. I mean, that is something I do believe.
I go to a family reunion. I know everybody's got something to share.
Oh, honey, that's so true. Everyone does. And I believe people can be phenomenal speakers, and I don't believe there's one size fits all, which I love about our industry. I love that there's no formula for speaking. I love that it's not a matter of, an ABC process, because if it was, everyone would look the same, and I love that we don't look the same.
No,
I love the authenticity of someone who totally screws up on stage. That's me. I am okay with that. But the person you meet at the coffee shop, across a microphone, or in front of thousands of people, it's the same person for me. And so that actually makes my life more productive, because I don't have to get upset about anything. I don't have to get concerned. I have no right to get nervous, because truly I'm just having a conversation with some people in front of me. So for me, speaking is very different. I am not a polished, beautiful, wonderful,
Eloquent
scripted speaker. I admire people who do that. I think that's fantastic. I can't. I love Fripp. She is hilarious and I adore her, but we joke about she could never, I just can't be Fripp, because
Patricia Fripp, for those of you who
Patricia Fripp she has a beautiful elegance about her and her wording and her choices of words, and she's brilliant at what she does. But I'm not disciplined enough to create that level of speech, and I don't want to invest the time in it. So I just think that the good thing about being a speaker is you get to choose. You get to choose who you like to emulate, or who, for example, you can't be like them, but you can still enjoy them. There's so many speakers that I think are phenomenal. I can't be like that, and that's what's so great about it. I don't want to be like that.
And that's like what I always hear about people worried about someone's going to take their stuff, or someone's going to take their content,
seriously?
and it's like, you know what? They may take your content, but no one can deliver it like you. Now, they may deliver it better than you, so sorry, you're out of luck, but I doubt they deliver it just like you and in the way you do.
This happened to me recently. I had someone who's very much a part of my area, geographical, and she set up a sign with the same title and happened to be saying the same things, and she happened to be...
She was Jean Names.
Yeah, scary.
Just swapped some letters,
What was really funny about it was, she wanted to practice a presentation and she was sharing it with me. And it was my stuff. And it was hysterical. But here's the thing. You know what? I said to my office, I said, you know what? I just have to get better. I can't use that anymore. And that's totally okay. That's totally okay.
Well, you can if you want, you can still use it. It's just like, again,
but
she's not Australian with the way she...
Sure, the delivery is different. But then I thought, you know what? That's good, because it forces you to keep reinventing, to refine your research, to stay more relevant and current. Because I think we get lazy too. I think that if you know certain stories work, or if you know certain processes work and those sort of things, you tend to use them over and over. And I find myself, I have to keep having new stuff, because otherwise I get myself bored. And I don't want to be bored with my own content. But it was a really good lesson for me. And we don't deliver babies, we do not cure cancer, and we are not rocket scientists. So at the end of the day, part of our job is to truly, hopefully make some kind of difference, or implement some kind of inspiration or motivation or some reason for people to have something else to make it valuable for them. But we don't. It's not life-altering what we do.
No, and I appreciate that. I've gotten some speakers upset with me because I try to explain to them that a lot of the times, especially in the mind of the meeting planner, you are as important, equally, as the centerpieces, as the food.
You're a line item.
Yeah. If the food is horrible, it's just as much of an impact as if the speaker's bad.
Right.
In fact, they would much rather have better food than a better speaker, because more people will complain about the food than they will about a speaker.
We don't have a right to be bad, and this is one thing...
Well, no, I'm not saying we have a right to be bad,
I know, but we see it, and I think, when I first moved to this country, one of my observations was that you can be incredibly average and you can work every week. Because you can go to a different state and you can go to a different audience, and you will never run out of work in this country. You just won't. There is just an enormous amount of opportunities available to people here. In Australia, it's different insofar Australia is a very small market, and the speaking industry is a much, much smaller market. And so there, I guess it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse. It's just different.
It's like working only in a state here in the United States.
Sure, if you just work in one state.
Yeah, if you only worked in Pennsylvania, that would be similar to only working in...
Correct. So, what I find fascinating is we allow it. There's average, and unfortunately we allow it. And, I have good days and I have bad days as well. Please don't think that every day is a, hit it out of the park day for me. That's not reality. It's not. However, my job is to serve that audience the best way I can at that point in time.
So the last question is, you're a productivity person. So there's got to be at least one fundamental productivity tip that everyone, no matter what their style is, can use to some degree.
Absolutely.
Let's end on that one, and we'll let you, because you're very busy. I want to thank you for being here. You're the co-chair.
Oh, my privilege.
I want people to know you're the co-chair of the Unconference here.
With the fabulous Gina Schreck.
Who's actually was on last week.
Cool.
And what I want you to do is talk about the
one tip.
The one tip that anybody can use, no matter what they do, no matter what business, even if they're not a speaker.
It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how experienced you are. The one thing I would say to people is you need to speak time. You need to include time in your language. For example, in the 3 minutes we have left, Craig, here's some things I'd love our listeners to think about. In the 10 minutes we have with our meeting today, here's what I'd like to cover. And you can speak time with your family. You can speak time with your clients and your team members. And when you start to speak time, you personally become more conscious of time, and you also cause people around you to see that you're a person who values time. And just another final tip in that regard, speak weird bits of time. I say things like, in the 7 minutes we have left in this meeting, here's what I'd like to cover. In the 13 minutes I've allocated for our time together, here's what we'd like to do.
So kind of jar them into
Absolutely. So speak time, cut through the clutter, and make it so that you look more productive. Even if you don't feel productive, I don't care. You'll look productive, and it's all about that. So speak time.
Well, great, because we're out of time now. Neen, I want to thank you very much. And where can people find you?
My website is Neen James. Probably the quickest way to find me is on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @NeenJames.
Well, that ends another episode of Reality Check with Craig Price. I want to thank Neen James for being my guest. I hope you feel this was as productive as I did. You can find us on the web at realitycheckpodcast.com. Join the newsletter. Find out who's going to be on the show in upcoming episodes. Get access to past episodes. Also, you can email me at craig@speakercraigprice.com with any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.